Good.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Democratic Club of Claremont monthly luncheon meeting today. I am pleased to announce that we have Janice Elliott, who's a city council person on the Upland City Council. Janice is waving, she's in the purple. But what you may not know about Janice is that she's been on the city council for 5 years. Before that, she was an elementary school teacher for 19 years. She was also a volunteer at the Upland Animal Shelter for a year. She was a CPA for a while before she changed to teaching. And she's lived in Claremont for, goodness, I can't remember now. What'd you say, about 15 years or so?
I lived in Claremont for about 8 years, I think.
Okay,
Yeah.
excellent.
And she was very big time in the Sierra Club, did very many important things there too.
Well, thank you, Karen. And my husband is the Pomona Valley Audubon Society's conservation chair. So I still have ties with Claremont, along with my Claremont Courier subscription, which I've had for over 30 years. So I keep track of what's happening in Claremont, and I have taken several committee structures and ideas from the Courier that the city council has adopted, and I've interjected them in Upland. So I have very much benefited from this association with Claremont. Chris, did you have anything else you want to say, or is
Yeah,
it?
just a quick housekeeping task. I've muted everybody who's not speaking, but you have the power to unmute yourself. We'll have questions and answers after Janice is done. And the title of her talk is Claremont and Upland Opportunities and Challenges. So Janice, whenever you're ready.
Okay, well, first of all, I want to thank Chris for extending this speaking opportunity to me, and to say how honored I am to be addressing this group of people that has such vast local political knowledge and commitment. I'm also quite nervous because I'm not accustomed to having this honor, and I have so much respect for you that I just want to make sure I don't stumble on my words or forget a word or something like that, but I'm really happy to be here. The issues of commonality that Upland shares with Claremont that I plan to address are the following: the development of the vacant and underutilized property on the east end of Foothill Boulevard that borders with Claremont, parks that are utilized by both of our residents, environmental policies that affect all of our regional residents, the animal shelter opportunities that Upland and Claremont might have a possibility to explore, regional political challenges, and, if time permits, our beloved Ophelia's Jump Productions. It's a theater group that is housed in Upland, but the principals are mostly Claremont residents, and it's a treasure that both communities share. So to start out with, partly because Claremont City Council made a decision on the Commons just a couple days ago, and because Upland's been under threat of litigation over the Commons, I'd like to address that. We in Upland breathed a huge sigh of relief when the vote came in at 3-2 against approving the project. Against approving the project. Because from Upland's position, the proximity in the Cable Airport land use planning guide indicates that it's of high risk for residents and not appropriate for residents. Now, there were studies done that I thought were fairly convincing, that seemed like the risk might be overblown. And I do know that I'm hearing some feedback, and I don't know why. There were I don't know of any crashes that have occurred on that parcel, but I do talk to residents have experienced problems with low-flying airplanes coming in and out of Cable Airport. And we have a new development that's on the south side of Foothill, the Harvest, and a lot of the residents there are very unhappy about the planes, the low-flying planes, even though they had to sign a disclosure stating that they're aware of their proximity to the airport, that the planes fly over there. But the problem is that sometimes the pilots don't follow the guidelines. They may come in a little low. And it's disturbing. You can insulate a building all you want, but if you're outside enjoying your backyard and you can see the whites of the pilot's eyeballs, you feel your privacy isn't been invaded. And it's just a little unnerving because it's kind of like, it's a big, heavy piece of machinery that if they made a mistake, it could cause a lot of damage. We've had several crashes in Upland, and we've been fortunate not to have, of my recent memory, anybody die in any of the residents die in those crashes, but it's an issue. Now, there is a question of how long will that airport be in existence, and I don't know. I'm not a crystal ball gazer. It is possible that in future generations, that will no longer be its highest and best use. And maybe there's a developer in the future that might be able to convince the family to sell. And then that would open up a lot of opportunities. So I think for now, the commons issue has been resolved, and we can move on to the next area along Foothill Boulevard that involves Claremont because of its proximity. And that is the area between Benson and Central. Upland has a lot of underutilized property. We have some vacant pieces of land. And last year, the city council voted to approve a almost 200,000 square foot warehouse project that's on the north side of the Foothill Boulevard between Benson and Central. I voted no on it, but there has been no development because a group of residents have sued. And on Monday, the judge is scheduled to hear on whether or not an environmental impact report will be necessary, because that's what the residents sued on, was the mitigated negative declaration that the other council members voted to approve. I'm bringing that up because that's kind of, in my mind, the crux issue to this development. It's not, the developers originally wanted close to 1 million square feet of warehouse, and they were negotiated down to about 200,000 square feet. And the developers did not disclose the tenant, although it's widely reputed to be Amazon. And I've been shown evidence that it's Amazon, but it has not officially been pronounced that it's Amazon. So I'm just assuming it is. And it would be one of those last mile delivery centers, which means that according to our development agreement, there's a limited amount of semi-truck traffic that would be allowed in and out, but there would be quite a bit of van traffic. From my perspective, enforcement of that's kind of difficult. I wanted to have mechanical counters with cameras in order to verify that the traffic agreement could be enforced, but that didn't make its way into the development agreement. So that's not something that's being litigated unless, of course, the environmental impact report gets approved and they do another traffic study, and that somehow works its way in. But the traffic is the big issue, being that close to Claremont, in between the 10 freeway and the 210 freeway. Had this center been close to one of those two freeways, it would not have the impact that it will have located on Foothill Boulevard. With the other opportunities for development in its proximity, there is a potential of other warehouses springing up in those sites that would then feed to this distribution center. We already have a developer that is working with our planning department across the street. I believe it's 7 acres of land. They want to put in 100,000 square feet of warehouse. 20, I proposed a change to our Upland Municipal Code that would preclude any warehouse over 50,000 square feet in that area, in business park area, and warehouses that exceed 25,000 square feet would have to get a conditional use permit. But that has not made its way through the Planning Commission, nor has it been approved, although we have, we voted 5-0 in order to start the process. So this developer was rather concerned about if he were to go ahead and submit an application for entitlements, that it might not be approved. And so we had a workshop about 2 or 3 weeks ago on what our vision, the Planning Commission and the City Council's vision is for that small corridor. And one of the things that I learned is the parcels of land, many of the parcels of land that were annexed from the county, I believe in the 70s, don't have sewer connections. And that's kind of an important consideration, because if you're going to put residents in there or businesses like restaurants and with a lot of traffic, you're going to have to provide bathrooms. And without a sewer connection, you can't put septic tanks in there because that would affect your groundwater. So that limits the possibility for development. A warehouse has got not that many people per square foot that will be involved there. So you would not, it might not be as big of an issue. But the sewer connection is a significant issue. Now, it can be remedied by getting easements through other properties and connecting with city sewer. So it's not like an impossible situation, but it's not an ideal situation. The other situation we've got is we've got businesses that aren't family friendly that are in that area that have been long established. They're grandfathered in. There's not much we can do. And one in particular seems to still be going gangbusters. They still have a demand. And so until its highest and best use is something else, city officials can't do too much about that. So I go to Claremont frequently to go to the theater there, and I drive Foothill home, and I'm loving the village, and I've been loving the colleges, and then the School of Theology and the Robert Redford Conservancy. And then I get to Upland border there, and I see gravel quarries and adults dancing and toy boxes, and it's just like, oh, I wish I was in Claremont. But that being said, it is what it is. And I am hoping that we can find a really good solution to how to best utilize that property to make our residents proud of Upland, of having a Foothill Boulevard that lives up to its historic reputation, because I think we could do some commercial businesses in there that would be beneficial to the community, to the city. Upland, like Claremont, needs sales tax revenue, property tax revenue. We need revenue. And getting it from businesses that are successful would be desirable. So those are my thoughts. on that really critical area. In my greatest night or my worst nightmare, we would just have little warehouses springing up, and then the trucks trying to go across the street over to the warehouse on the north side of Foothill Boulevard, and the trucks then going to the 210 freeway and to the 10 freeway, and maybe there's a traffic blockage, so they're going through the residential areas. And I just don't see that as a real winning situation. But and then we have a recent AQMD holding that will be requiring more no emission vehicles that could impact that development as far as our greenhouse gas emission concerns. But it still doesn't eliminate the problem with traffic and the wear and tear on the streets and the cost of that wear and tear on the streets. So those are my major thoughts on that shared, or that piece of strip that I think is near and dear to all of our hearts. But the other things that I know that Claremont residents love, that Upland residents love, are our parks. Claremont residents come to Upland, they walk up Euclid, and Euclid isn't officially a park, but I see it as Upland Central Park. It's right smack in the middle. It's lined with beautiful trees. It's got opportunities for walking, for talking, for getting our dogs out. And I meet Claremont residents on there frequently. Upland residents go to Claremont and walk in the Wilderness Park or walk along the Thompson Creek Trail. And we love those parks. People from all over go to Memorial Park. There's wonderful birds, that we've got a skate park that is magnificent. And now it's open without charge, thanks to a lot of residents lobbying for that. And we would love to see that development. There was a bit of a threat to the Upland Park, 6 acres of it that consists of the baseball diamond on the southwest section of it. The hospital really wanted to buy that property, and the initial attempt was to get a judge to just validate the sale of the property between the city of Upland and the hospital without it going to the residents to vote. The judge did not validate it, said it was not within his authority to do so. So it did come before the residents, and the residents voted to oppose the sale of the property to the hospital. So we've maintained control, we've maintained that land. And we're now in the process, we've applied for a Prop 68 grant that, for the amount of $8 million, which if we were to get that, we would be able to add some significant amenities, a walking trail with exercise stations, and make the park more enjoyable for families and residents. As it is now, we have some utilization of it, but not enough to keep out some of the people with mental health and addiction problems. And so I get regular notifications of people being passed out at Memorial Park because they're overdosed. And because they're so close to the hospital, sometimes they go into the hospital, they get released, they go to Memorial Park, and they get involved, they use their drugs there, and it doesn't have the reputation of a place where families want to go. And I really, really hope that we can change that. I hope that in Upland, in our area, we get more mental health services. You have the Tri-Cities Mental Health Alliance, which is wonderful. This is a regional problem. We've got San Bernardino County, and our closest center is Arrowhead Regional Hospital, which isn't real close. And that's a problem that we need to solve, which I'm diverting from parks, but it affects our parks. It affects the quality of the parks. And this goes into homelessness, and homelessness doesn't have a boundary either. If the homeless are dissuaded from staying in Upland, they may go over to Claremont, vice versa. So we need to have policies that address that. And I'm very excited about, I believe I heard $12 billion at the state level to address homelessness. And that, of course, I would hope would include mental health facilities and mental health services, because to me, that is an issue as well. It's not the only cause of homelessness, but it certainly is one of the causes. How am I on time? Okay, I think I'm okay still. Environmental policies. We just recently, last Monday, approved an environmental sustainability committee. It would be just a residents committee. It wouldn't have a city council member attached to it, but they would be working with our city staff in order to alert the staff to environmental legislation that staff might not be quite aware of, and vice versa, have the staff alert this committee of legislative changes or changes in contracts with our different service providers, where this committee could then be interfaced with our residents and let them know of changes coming down. The big change is in organic waste. We all know that there's a big change in the law on organic waste, and it's going to be affecting us extremely soon. I don't know in LA County, I think you've already been affected by it, but San Bernardino County has had a little bit more time. But we've now got to have some separate containers for that. And we need to have a committee that will work on it. But I'll get to a more dicey issue here. Upland is about half Democrat and half Republican. And why does this matter? Because city government is nonpartisan. Well, there are some values that the parties basically have that right now are more in focus. They're a little bit harder to compromise on. And when it comes to environmental issues, they're becoming more intense. Climate change, we are seeing the effects of climate change. But yet, if I've got residents that don't believe in climate change, if our elected officials won't state that they believe in climate change and won't support the policies that will address climate change, then we're not going to be part of the solution. And here is where it gets really complicated. The Los Angeles County Central Committees are very different than the San Bernardino County's Central Committees for the Democrats and for the Republicans. San Bernardino County's Republican Central Committee are very long established. They are very supportive of their candidates, and they are very aggressive of Democrat candidates, very aggressive. I'm speaking of firsthand experience, first Democrat in 25 years to have been elected to the city council. And the first 2 years, I probably would have quit had I not had some wonderful people standing by my side, holding my hand and cheering me on. The second 2 years were a little bit better, but it wasn't until the 2020 election, where I'm now the senior council member, and I've got other council members that highly respect me, and we work as a group much better because nobody else from that former council is there anymore. None of them got reelected. So I think those that are sitting on there now are more respectful of the need to understand that half of our residents are Democrats. And even though our Democrat residents aren't campaigning, they're not there at the council meetings talking. They're still there at the, they're still voting. And Upland did have more people vote for Biden than for Trump, I'm proud to say. And so we're much more efficient, much more efficient than I've ever seen it. But that being said, with this new environmental sustainability committee, I have yet to find a a representative for that committee in District 2 where I am. I'm north of Foothill and I'm east of San Antonio. That has a passion for environmental justice. I know people that are knowledgeable in my district, very knowledgeable on solid waste, on water, but passion for something like environmental justice, I might not be able to find somebody with that. So I may have to choose somebody that will be helpful, but not be a voice of values that I hold. And that's always a challenge for me. Animal service opportunities. When I was a Claremont resident, and this was from, oh golly, I moved there in the 80s and I moved out of there in the late 90s. So, I think I was there for 8 or 9 years. When I lived there, it would always distress me to see roadkill, and it took a while for any of it to be moved when there would be animals in traffic. I found that the time that the response time to get help was concerning. But last year I got involved with a dog rescue. There was a dog that was tied up to a sign post on Mount Baldy Road, and Inland Valley Humane Society was called on New Year's Eve day, 4 o'clock, New Year's Eve day. And in 20 minutes, that dog was picked up and taken to the Humane Society there. I went to visit it a couple days later, and I was so impressed with the renovations that they have done, with the staff that met with me. And I didn't tell them my credentials or anything. I just wanted to visit the dog that I was involved in the rescue of. And I was so impressed with the quality of education that they had. So I know that they have changed quite a bit. And I don't know what they cost are, but I know in the past, our city managers, Claremont's and Upland, has talked about Upland's excess capacity. We've got this beautiful, beautiful animal shelter in Upland that's huge. It's the Taj Mahal of animal shelters. And we've got an amazing group of volunteers that run the animal shelter. A couple of years ago, our city staff stopped running it when we outsourced the operations of the shelter to a group of Upland volunteers called the Friends of Animal Shelter. And I was the treasurer for a year. So that year that I was a volunteer, I was a full-time volunteer and the treasurer of the organization. And that's how I got involved with city politics, is when they cut our budget and did an RFP for services. I started advocating for the shelter and said to myself, I think I could help this community by running. And I, as good luck would have it, and I will say it's luck, there were four candidates. 3 of them were vying for the Republican vote openly, and I was the only Democrat. And so the numbers were just good for me. I got the San Bernardino County Democrat Central Committee endorsing me, and Pete Aguilar, our congressman for South Upland, endorsed me. And I stood on the street corner for 3 days and afternoons and nights with my sign and canvassed over 2,000 houses, and I won. So that was very, very good luck. But my term is up in 2022, and I'm pretty sure that if I run, I'm going to have some formidable competition. So we'll just take this one day at a time. Ophelia's Jump production, I'm sure many of you have heard of them. They have suffered greatly during the pandemic being live theater. And so I'm excited to say that they've got plans to have outdoor productions, and the city of Upland did grant them special event permits to allow them to do so, up to 12 a year. So the principles of Ophelia's Jump Productions are, a lot of them are Claremont connected. And I've been a season ticket holder for 3 years and I absolutely love it. I would say a lot of the themes are more progressive. And when they had their opening for the Chamber of Commerce here in Upland, the chamber attended a production, and the feedback I heard before, when I was a candidate, was that it was kind of risque and objectionable to the more conservative Chamber of Commerce. And so I don't know how much traction it got there. I'm not personally that involved with the Upland Chamber of Commerce. It for various reasons. I support Upland businesses, but their meetings are at times where it's just not really good for me. And I'm nervous about the pandemic. I am a breast cancer survivor, and I had metastasized cancer. So I have, I'm kind of immune suppressed. And so I avoid large crowds unless I wear a mask, and where I'm with people that are anti-mask, it's a little uncomfortable for me. So I tend to avoid those gatherings. Even, now I'm starting to work with it now that the CDC just this week said, okay, now if you're got your shots, you don't have to worry about it. I've got a habit here I've got to withdraw from. So that takes care of the common issues that I see between Claremont and Upland. And I'm wondering if anybody has some questions that they have. Chris, are you going to moderate the questions?
No, I'm going to let people just unmute themselves and ask you. It looks like we have a polite crowd, so I don't have to kick anybody out, except for Merle. But I think Merle will behave himself. Merle, you go ahead. You have the first question.
This isn't really a question. When I was doing what Chris is doing now, when I was programming chair for the club, we heard that there was this woman Democrat elected to the Upland City Council, and this being a strange beast, we invited her to speak, or I invited her to speak. So this must have been in your first 2 years back there on the city council. So I do want to say we have long been supportive of you, and the way you've turned out here, you seem to be really have progressed and developed as a council member and are now the leader of the council, according.
Well,
So, congratulations, Janice.
big difference between leader and senior member. There is a world of difference. I am still the only Democrat on the Upland City Council, and that really can't be underscored enough.
Well, we do want to congratulate you on having fought the good battle and stayed alive there.
Thank you. And I got to say that in 2018, when I chose to run for my district, I was censured in June and the election was in November. And I just thought, I'd already declared that I was running. But luckily, this group of people that supported me, and this was Republican Democrats, because they loved my transparency. They loved my vision for having more citizen engagement. I had actually more Republicans advocate for me than Democrats in 2018. And fortunately, a lot more people watch our meetings and attend. And I would go, I wasn't even going to canvass. I was just so humiliated by the situation. But some of my supporters did canvass. They said, Janice, you've got to go out and talk to these people. They love you. And I'm going, really? So I did. I went out, and my golly, people read the newspapers and they listened and they watched the meetings, and I was just so refreshed. and I did win. And so I was very grateful for the people that did support me at that time. Although at that point, had I not won, I probably would have been okay with it, because I can't tell you how horrible it was to see lies in the newspaper about who I am. I mean, I'm very sensitive of being misunderstood. I do not like that one bit. I like to be a clear communicator, and to read what people were saying about me was a very bad experience. But now if people are watching, if they're watching the meetings, if they're paid attention, if they're reading the newspaper now, they're seeing that those things weren't true. The worst thing I heard was on NPR. There was a Friday morning speaker that does local news, and she said that I was like Trump in my social media messaging. And that hurt so bad to hear those words on the radio. I mean, I listen to NPR all the time, and it was like, I'm nothing like that man in my discourse. So yeah, thank you, Meryl.
You're welcome. Congratulations.
Jennifer, is your hand up? No, there, I see a hand.
It is. Yeah, my hand is up.
Okay, cool.
Janice, I just want to tell you, I think that you're a real inspiration, and that your honesty.
I'm not hearing you well. I'm so sorry, Jennifer.
Humility is really, really meaningful and powerful to me. Oh, I'm sorry. Is it my volume? Can you hear me now?
Your volume is
If I
okay.
shout, can you hear
It could be my internet. It could be my
Is everyone
Wi-Fi.
able to hear me?
I
Okay.
can hear you now.
Okay, so I just wanted to thank you for your humility, because, and we all know that the road to humility is filled with humiliating experiences, and it really takes so much courage to have dignity and poise, and to just keep carrying on. So thank you
I can't
so
hear.
much for that, and that's personal. I think that there are so many issues, and you and I issues that do not have zip codes. And so it is so important that we establish cooperative, collaborative lines of communication, so that we can, when possible, we can collaborate together to find solutions. I'm sorry I'm shouting, but I want you to hear me. And then also to have an excessive amount of banked goodwill, so that when conflict arises, we have banked trust and banked goodwill to rely on, so that we can work through and find best solutions when we are in conflict. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You don't know how much your words mean to me, and I'm kind of wiping away tears here. I thank you. I have deep gratitude and look forward to future visits. Any other questions?
Karen.
Oh, Karen. Karen, there you go. Can't hear you. Unmute.
Maybe I did the wrong thing. Now
There you go.
I'm so pleased and proud of who you are, what you have told us, and just the bravery and all the stuff you've been through, and still have this lovely attitude. You're just a wonderful example of womanhood.
You have helped me along the way, Karen. Your appearance at some of our city council meetings have just buoyed my spirit. It's like, oh my God, Karen is here. It has meant so much to me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Anybody else? Okay, well, you have been a delightful, delightful group of people to talk to. You know how to get a hold of me, I hope. And if you ever have some thoughts that could be helpful or something you want me to work on with you, reach out to me. Thank you.
All
Thank
right,
you, Chris.
Janice, thank you for coming. Thank you
Oh,
very
my
much.
pleasure. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, everybody, I don't know if does anybody have any announcements that they would like to give during this time? Otherwise, we will adjourn. So let me just pause and see if anybody has anything they'd like to add.
I just had one quick comment. A few years ago, there was a Democratic group in Upland, and because they had asked me to come and address them on a couple of political issues, et cetera, et cetera. Is that group still active? Or
I
is
can
it?
answer that one.
Pardon?
Andy, I can answer that for you.
Yeah, that was.
We had the
mentioned.
Foothill Democratic Club that was run by Linda Baker, and she died maybe a year ago. And
October.
so, when was that?
October.
Oh, okay, not that long ago.
Mhm.
There was that group.
So there's no active group now?
No, we've
No.
got somebody that's been involved with the Democrats in the past, and I've asked a guy named Bob Wagoner,
Yes,
and I've asked him to reach out to his contacts to see about starting one up, because that would be really, really good.
this is Deb Evans. I've got my hand up.
Hi, Deb.
I have connected him with Terry Massel and Greg Marshall,
Good.
and so that they can try and get together. I also forwarded him this information for today. But yeah, I've been chatting with him about starting a club over in Upland again.
That would be awesome. Thank you,
Yeah.
Debbie. Carol Lee?
Yes, let me see if I can find this. I have an email that I just got from Susan Castagnetto, and she said, please, to the Claremont Dems, please call or email Senator Portantino today to urge a yes vote on SB 300 in the Senate Appropriations Committee. Portantino is the chair. Today is the last chance to give input. The bill will remove life without parole and death sentences for people who did not kill someone or intentionally kill someone in a crime. I can send this to Debbie if you want to forward it, if anybody's interested.
And I'm just
What was the number again? Senate Bill?
300.
Senate Bill 300.
Okay, Debbie, is your hand still up or are you done?
No, I'm sorry. I need to lower it. Sorry.
Okay. All right.
But I'm also looking at that. If nobody else, I do have something additional to say to throw out there. I know we haven't talked about it within the e-board, but I know that LACDP Central Committee is looking to August or September, we will start meeting again in person. So it might be something that we would look at for going back to Eddie's, maybe around the same time for vaccinated people. So something, you guys give feedback if that's something that you're interested in. That we would, reach out to us if you have interest in that, and then we can weigh out the pros and cons and next steps. And it would be nice to support local businesses again.
Debbie,
Thank
can
you,
I ask
Debbie.
you a question? Is Pilgrim Place opening now since everybody there has been vaccinated and so forth?
I
We
wouldn't know that. That would be someone from Pilgrim Place. Would Merrill know?
We're
Since
all
he lives there.
vaccinated.
No, what I'm
Staff
asking
and
is whether we can
resident.
go back to Napier Hall. by
They
the end of
haven't
the month.
opened it up yet. The Pilgrim Place is extremely cautious in these things, and it will be open, but right now it's not. Probably later in the summer, just like Debbie said about the Central Committee. I would guess maybe August or September.
Which were dark in August, so maybe in September, then we could have in-person meetings if they open it up, yeah. But, let us know about the Gar Byram lecture series, that if we're interested, we could possibly go back to Eddie's if they're willing to take us.
Yeah, and I should mention that on Memorial Day, which is the 31st this year, we're going to have Senator Connie Leva,
Yes.
7 o'clock.
Love her.
Okay, unless are there any further announcements? Going once?
Could you wait 1 second? I'm looking up SB 30 to see if Central Committee supported it, just for. Hold on. I
Yeah,
clicked on the
Debbie,
wrong one.
It's SB 300.
I mean, 300, I know. I wrote it down. I just didn't speak correctly. Hold that thought.
So I understand we have a new third in command in the Republican Party. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Isn't that special?
Yeah, the other thing, if people are interested or waiting for Debbie to find a thing, is I'm keeping up a lot on, as a lot of you know, I've spent time in Israel, Palestine, written a book on it, yada, yada, yada. Anyhow, the situation there is pretty damn horrible. And if anyone's interested, I don't know when we can talk about it, but I'm not sure I think Biden is ducking. Whether we want to duck or not is a good question in terms of taking any position or doing any education on it. This is different than has ever happened in Israel before. If you don't, that is conflict between Hamas and Israel and the government and the military. That's horrible, and lots of civilians are being killed. But that's old in a sense. What is new is, for the first time, you have large groups of Palestinian Israeli citizens, which is 20% of the Israeli population, in conflict with right-wing Israeli Jewish citizens. And we're talking about mobs attacking each other, people getting killed, people getting beat up, businesses getting destroyed. I mean, you really have sectarian violence inside Israel, and there is actual talk of a civil war. That hopefully that doesn't happen. But and just really, one last comment. This is a political comment on it. This is being all stimulated by Netanyahu because this is his one way of keeping power. I mean, so people are dying so he can stay in office. I mean, that's a little bit casual or shallow analysis, but there's a major part of truth of it. Anyhow, some people might be interested.
Yeah,
We
they
do
bombed
not
the
take a
Al
position.
Qaeda University.
Thanks. Andy, Debbie, you had an announcement, and then Jim, I thought I saw your hand up. I didn't know if you wanted to say something, but Debbie, you first.
Yeah, LACDP did not take a position on SB 300 yet. That doesn't mean we won't.
Okay, Jim?
No, thank you. I was just saying goodbye. Wonderful program. Thank you very much, Janice.
Okay,
thank
thanks
you,
for
Jim.
coming.
My pleasure. Thanks, everybody.
We
Okay,
can do
thanks,
anything to help,
Janice.
Janice, let us know.
Okay,
Thank
I'm going to sign off now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody, for coming. Take care. Have a
Bye-bye.
good weekend. Bye now.